Hey everybody, jumping from Coleus is just checking in. How's everybody's germinations going? Hey, you know, I went to Lowe's today to pick up 250-quart bags of Miracle-Gro moisture potting mixture and some worm castings. They only had a very small bag of worm castings, so I'm going to get it elsewhere. I mixed that in with my potting mixture. But I'm on my next stage here, which I do every year. I have this bay window that, if you're following along, you know what I'm talking about. My southeast facing bay window. So I moved my racks in. I'm preparing for when I'm going to separate my Coleus seedlings, which is still a couple of weeks off. So if you're following along, stay tuned for that. I'm going to show you real quick my little setup, what I do, and we'll look over our seedlings. And lots of color coming in, very, very tiny, but a few of the varieties like the colossal marbles, the crimsons, some others are starting to show their characteristics, which is really, really cool. And Kongs are very, very interesting because they all vary a little bit. Every single one that you grow will always be a little different, which is really exciting with them, which is why I love growing them. So, all right, so let's take a look. Take a look at some other plants here. And if you're following along, you can use this as a guide. And just a reminder, I have 3 packs of Coleus seeds left on my eBay store, Jim's Coleus. So head over to Jim's Coleus if you want my final 3 packs of seeds. It's not too late to start your Coleus, not by any means. So head over to Jim's Coleus, grab up those last 3 packs of seeds. I don't know where to start. Okay, so these are the racks that I have in my greenhouse. I have about 6 racks. I got these at Lowe's. You can get them at Home Depot, Lowe's. You can buy them on Amazon. Very, very easy to put together. There's 4 and 5 shelf racks. I have both types in my greenhouse, as I mentioned. Very easy to put together. Pretty inexpensive, about 60 bucks. Very, very. The only negative is the wire. So if you have certain type of pots, like these square pots, they don't do too well on it, a little unstable. So you got to use a dish. Or I haven't really gotten them, but they do sell like mats that you can lay over this that maybe are a little more sure-footed, that will allow water to go through. But I just haven't gotten around to getting it. And after going on 8 years now, I probably won't. But I make do with it. But these are really handy and they're perfect. This is the next stage of how I go from my germination trays to my smaller pots to the outdoor greenhouse, which is generally in May. You can see we have our these are those overwintered. Is the Saturn rings, colossal marble. I actually cut another rooting off of the inky fingers, but I just had them up here. Gave them some fertilizer today and watered, and they're gonna come back. And I actually potted. I had a little colossal marble, little weak little stem here. It's too beautiful to throw away, so I just potted it up. It'll be a beautiful plant. So if you're following along, remember these little fellas as a Darth Vader. Really good haircuts, really trimmed them down good. You could argue I can cut that down even more. But that's an inky fingers. It'll do wonderfully. The stem's very, very healthy. It's nice and it's hard. It's not mushy. So I know this will be a very healthy plant once we get it outdoors. And of course the rest of some of my other rootings, cuttings now. And I have more in the other room. But these are really good racks. And this is a perfect spot because I have, again, the southeast facing window, lots of light. And I have the baseboard over here, which provides all the warmth it needs between the sun. And then, of course, when the sun goes down, we got that warmth from the baseboard. So this is a really, really perfect spot for not just Coleus, but really any kind of plants. Start my tomatoes out here, everything. All right, here's our, if you're following along, this is my Clementine tree. It's doing nicely. It's pretty healthy. I don't see any show of decline. Not watering it too much. Clementine fruit trees, you don't want to overwater. I put a little bowl of water there to boost the humidity. And I misted it a little bit, but I really read up on it, and misting, I guess temporarily, it's fine, even if things are really dry, but it only really boosts its humidity for a certain amount of time until the water evaporates. So I actually brought it inside the shower the other day. I turned the hot water on, I got it really steamy, and I shut the door and I left it in there for an hour or so. So that did it good. But here's my fast growing, easy peel clementine tree. Okay, onto the germinations. You can see they're doing pretty well. Not quite ready to separate. We'll get to that. See if we can turn a couple of these around. Okay, here we are. These are actually Wizard Rose Kongs. So, but you can see, look at the pink already. And these are just, what, 2 weeks old? 3 weeks? Going to be fabulous. A little overseeded. And we'll pick out the smaller ones. But everything's doing really well here. I remove the dome, which means I have to keep up on the watering. So I just gave these a gentle sprinkle of water, and I just really check each one to see how they feel, make sure they're moist to the bottom, because the roots are really starting to take off. So if you're following on using these drift jivvy trays and you're at this point now, take your dome lids off, but you have to keep up on the watering. Don't drench them, don't saturate them. If you overwater it, don't worry about it. Just leave. Don't zip up your greenhouse or anything. Let it air out, and they'll dry out. Skip a few days of watering, and they'll be fine. And actually, there was a few pods that did not germinate, which happens. So I just sprinkled a few new seeds. Did not fertilize. You do not fertilize. Once again, do not fertilize at this size. It's still too early. We'll start fertilizing later on when we transplant these into pots. But lots of grow light, lots of light. And also, at this point now, I have the timers for the grow lights to shut off before I go to bed, around 10 o'clock. So I give them 8 hours of rest. So now's the good time to introduce your plants to the day-night cycle. Gives them a rest. You don't want to keep your grow lights on 24/7. So if you're using your grow lights, now's the time. If you forget one night, don't worry about it, but try to, if you have timers, those are obviously the best thing. Just set it, give them about 8 hours of rest a night. Okay, so I took the tray out so we can get a little closer look. Again, I really overseeded a lot of these. I'm going to thin them out, but I've been doing this for a few years, and I get pretty good at separating them, and that's something I do. But if you're just growing some at home and you're using maybe a 25 and you're just growing a few plants, I recommend if you're new to this, to try to keep it at 3 or 4. These are colossal marbles. So let's get a real close up. Look at that already. And again, see the cotyledons to the left and right, and the true leaves are north and south. So those are about the same size now. You can only see some of the coloring on the cotyledons, but don't let that, those aren't true leaves. The true leaves are the north and south, center ones. But it's exciting when you see the color early on. There we go. So that one on the top left there, I'll We'll just pull that. And I'll wait. There's one over here. You know, the seeds drop. And here are, these got a little wet. I just dropped some seeds today. And those actually I dropped a few days ago. And I just, because the originals did not germinate. And these are the Lord, I had a few Lord Voldemort seeds this year. I only got a handful of them, so I planted them, and it looks like I got some growth coming in. So we'll see how those do. Nice color. Young Coleus. Water, just give them a sprinkle. But at this point, again, don't keep, take your covers off. Definitely don't, you should not be using heat mats at this point. You do want to keep the house warm. They need to stay between 65 and 70. So if you're somebody that, of course, it's very expensive today. And if you're somebody that likes to sleep cool, and you put your heat at 64, 65 at night, that's fine. But in general, the warmer, between 65 and 70. If you're using, for example, a greenhouse like I have, that indoor one, and you're concerned that maybe it's a little cool, you can use your heat mats indirectly. So you could put your heat mats on a bottom shelf and let the heat from the heat mats kind of radiate up to warm the inside of where you're keeping your trays. So if you're a little concerned about, if you like to keep your house cool, but you're concerned about those, you can always use your heat mats indirectly like that. Here's some color. Let's get that focus. This is a stubborn one, don't want to focus. Let's see. Interesting. This is one of the exciting things I always do every year. I'll catch 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 young germinations that may be a little different, like this one here, and just really look and watch it develop, and just to see how it develops. It's exciting. I have some work ahead of me. Once these start to really develop, I got some trimming, I got some separating to do, and potting, and we'll get into that. I can't stress enough, if you're going to be potting along with me, is to get a good quality potting soil. Don't get a dollar store. Get good quality. I use Miracle Grow. Good quality potting mixture. Don't use topsoil, even stored topsoil. Certainly don't use the soil from your outside, because it's not sterile. You can actually kill your Coleus plants. It can have mold in it and so forth. It can kill the roots. So you want to use a good quality moisture control potting mixture, which is sterile, and your Coleus or whatever plants you use are going to do very well, and it's healthy for them. So invest in that. Even some of the dollar store potting mixtures aren't really the best to use for these young germinations. Okay, so keep doing what you're doing. If you have any questions, again, reach out to me here or Instagram. Grab up some seeds if you still need some seeds. It's still early enough to plant Coleus seeds. And we'll be separating these Coleus probably not for another month or so. It all really depends on how fast they develop, and that depends on how warm it is. Next week is daylight savings time already. Next Sunday, the 12th. So, all right, so stay tuned here. We'll be doing, I may do another video before we separate. If you have any questions on what you might need for separating them, the type of pots that I use, and again, I just touched on the potting soil. Get your potting soil ready, and we'll be separating Coleus and planting them into pots, and that's when the magic really happens, because that's when they start to really take off. So, okay, so thanks for watching Jim's Coleus. Stay tuned. We got lots of growing to do.